Welcome to Lawmen, a podcast about local legends and obscure curiosities from days of yore. I'm James Shakeshaft.
And I'm Alistair Beckett-King.
And Alistair, we've got a returning deputy guest law person. It's only Chris Cantrill from The Delightful Sausage.
I'm so glad it's Chris. He respects the format of podcasts.
Big time. And he didn't swear too much.
He's climbed down off his high horse to brighten our day.
It's not that high a horse. It's a normal horse, but he's put it in stacked heels.
What's happened is someone's stolen the horseshoes, and so it's up on bricks.
Yes. Yeah.
It's Chris Cantrill with the story of Meg's Tea Room.
It's better than that sounds.
I need to get the name right of this.
Lawmen.
Alistair.
I need to change my avatar so I'm not wearing a Santa's hat.
I had a meeting with a business person and I'd been on like a beer Zoom the night before and my name was Big Terry. And she was like, "Hiya, Terry." And it was like, it was absolutely excruciating. She was laughing. She thought it was good fun, but it was like a serious sort of meeting about, like finances and stuff. And you're like, oh.
I guess that's the new sort of double handshake for like the age of Zoom business meetings.
Change your background to a super yacht and like loads of yen symbols and change your name to Success.
But with dollar signs.
Yeah. Hello, Success. This guy's a go-getter. Or a maniac.
We still haven't done a clap,
cool. Let's do it. We haven't done a clap.
No, we haven't done a clap.
We haven't done a clap. We're 20 minutes in.
So 3, 2, 1, clap. 3, 2, 1.
No, Chris. No,
was that Chris clapping at completely the wrong time?
Well, no, because I said 3, 2, 1, clap, and I didn't need the warning. I did it there and then.
Well, you did it out of time for that one as well. Should we do the clap properly now, actually?
I'm not going to name any names. If everybody could pay attention this time. 3, 2, 1.
I paid attention too much, if anything.
That did felt bad to me.
Right, thank you for having me back on.
Thanks for coming back on, Chris.
I didn't want to come back on, but I've got too much of a terrifying tale that I couldn't leave. After I was on the last time, a lot of people were saying I just kind of made it up off the top of my head. And Bradford's Museum Trust were like tweeting me and not totally amused with. So I was like, I'm staying away from this drama. So this time I'm much more prepared, as in I've got a pamphlet.
Oh, what is the name of the pamphlet?
Gilsland and Greenhead. And since we last spoke, I have moved in the pandemic to a place called Gilsland, which is like out in Cumbria, which is, for listeners, I know you get lots of international listeners. It's a bit like the Lake District.
I think of it as the Miami of the Northwest. I don't know if that's fair.
It's near Carlisle, a place called Carlisle.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this in the Indian subcontinent, it's near Carlisle.
Yeah.
It's equidistant.
If you're in Bogota,
Carlisle and Hexham. But it's so I've just moved there. I'm obviously a big boy from the streets, and all I've ever known is violence. But then I've moved to the countryside, so I'm suddenly in a rural community, a small community, and I've just started knocking around. I mean, I live in a bed and breakfast, and I'm running a bed and breakfast with my wife.
Yeah, you need that caveat, otherwise it does sound a lot more tragic.
There's so much context to this. Basically, I've inherited these old books, a lot of local history books. So I was like, after how stressful it was moving house in a pandemic, I have decided that I'm never doing it again and I am going to die here. So I was like, I'm going to get my feet under the table of this community. So I started reading these local history books. This one is by Mark Alexander and Geraldine Walker.
Is that Mark with a C, by the way?
Mark with a C, yeah, with a C.
The author of Haunted Inns.
The collector of the photographs of the men with cigs standing near walls.
Yep.
It's a brilliant little book. Maybe he made it because there's advertising in the back of it. Maybe this was his business model of going around and writing about smallish places and reaping anywhere up to £300 in sponsorship fees. It's a brilliant little book. Anyway, it turns out, I start doing a bit of digging. Turns out Gilsland is an absolute treasure trove of spooky goings on, spooky shenanigans. At first page I got to in this book, I'm not going to go into detail on this one, but talks about a little dead boy that's knocking around.
Ghost,
yes. Yeah, not just the looming spectre of childhood poverty under this Tory government.
Yeah, or some sort of pre-teen weekend at Bernie's.
So I'm not even here to talk to you about the spooky little dead boy. That's just, if you say that up here, to everyone here, they're like, oh, it must be Tuesday. That's how common it is. This is the tale of Meg's Tea Room in Gilsland. There could have been a better title there. So, just down the road, there's a tea rooms, which serves the local community and the tourist trade when that's allowed to happen. And it's called Meg's Tea Rooms. Beautiful place. But turns out it's steeped in history because it's actually the tale of a lady called Meg Teasdale, who was known as Meg Merrilies. Merillies. Do you know what? I'm just going to... Can you put that out on Twitter? And it feels like it's someone else's problem. So, this story... So, what happened is, back in the pasten days, about 170 years ago, as a fact for you, the Meg's Tea Room as it is today with amazing tray bakes. He'll do like a flapjack and it's got celebrations in it.
Ooh, nice.
Do you know what I mean? I'm always messaging him like, what's going on with these tray bakes? He's getting a bit annoyed with me. To be honest, it's 99% of the reason I moved away from Manchester. Just because I was like, I'm not getting a regular influx of tray bakes. It used to be a tavern, an inn of ill repute, and basically Meg Teasdale or Meg Merrilies, which I don't understand what that nickname means.
Does it just mean she got married?
Yeah, maybe. But apparently she was known as Old Meg, and she was a gypsy that lived atop the moors. And apparently she was known for, she'd murder people, she'd steal from them. No, I should have done that the other way around. She stole from them, and sometimes she would, like, the escalation was all gone.
If she murdered people and sometimes stole from them.
Yeah. So she'd steal from people at the inn, and sometimes she would even murder them. For apparently, in Meg's, there's a sealed up wall. What's beneath that? An ancient tunnel. The tunnel connects to another house in the village, and that house is next to the river. So she'd lure in someone, probably with some sort of 2-for-1 deal on whatever Blue Wicked was.
What would you do, Chris?
She'd lure them in.
Sorry, just once more.
What did I say, though?
I think you said, lure.
Right, yeah.
Can I just hear it just once more?
She'd lure. Oh.
Just clean. Just get that clean.
Now I'm embarrassed.
We can end the call now.
The podcast is now called Lure Men.
Guys, she'd lure innocent drinkers after the bar. Maybe she offered to show them, maybe she said she had a dog that she wanted to show them. Something
A
like
box
that.
of puppies, is that what you're thinking?
A box of puppies, or like a load of mice that had all not really separated at birth, and they're all like conjoined. She was like, I could show you it if you stayed till after closing time. And then she'd do away with them, drag them through the tunnel, throw the dead bodies into the river, and they'd float down the river. And then it's someone in Carlisle's problem, isn't it?
Yeah, yep.
Oh, there's another dead body. Like, the blame's down the river.
Yeah, let them deal with it in the big city.
Nobody is thinking to go upstream to Gilsland. So she's getting on with it for ages. And this is all, like, if at this point you're like, this sounds made up, I want you to know that it's actually a fact. Because it was immortalised in a story or a book or a blog post, I haven't got to the layer beneath it, by Sir Walter Scott.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fact. Yeah, he's a real guy. John, what's Keats' first name? Keats wrote a poem.
I'm going to look this up. We can't go through the whole podcast just guessing what Keats' first name is.
Terry Keats.
Big Terry.
John.
You going to read a poem to us?
James always gets upset whenever I read poems.
Can't listen to poems.
Why?
I don't know.
But that's like you. I can't listen to poems. I have to have waffles and beans for my tea. This is just another thing where your social standing is exposing itself. Me and Alistair are classy guys who listen to poems all the time. Sometimes we don't even have the telly on. Do you have a telly, Alistair?
No way.
There we go. Comes as a surprise to absolutely nobody.
But how do you watch telly?
On the internet.
Right, yeah. Keats' well-known poem, it's actually written on the walls of Meg's tea room in Gilsland. Oh, this is a long one. I'll read it all, and you can edit it down.
No, just read the first 2 lines.
Just read the first stanza.
You can put the extra on Patreon.
No, we want to keep our Patreons.
Old Meg, she was a gypsy, and lived upon the moors. Her bed it was the brown heath turf, and her house was out under the door. Cloak she wore, a chip hat had she on. God rest her aged bones, somewhere she died full long agone. And while we could definitely agree that did take up time, valuable time, in absolutely no way did it even remotely suggest that anything that I've said is true.
Because it specifically says she lived out of doors, not in a pub and murdered people.
Yeah. Although I thought it was going to go, Old Meg, she was a gypsy and lived upon the moors. She would gather mice and use them as lures.
Maybe this was her early years. You know how, like, Harry Hill used to be a doctor?
And now he murders people in pubs.
That's chapter 1.
Nice.
What I've tried to do there is just smash down.
Yeah.
That's just undeniable fact. Like, so absolutely no leg to stand on saying it's just a load of nonsense. So the next bit of it is that Meg, who died of causes, is actually still around to this very day. Andy, he's experienced lots of paranormal activity at Meg's. Meg's has been in his house for, I think, a couple of generations.
Andy's the guy doing the tray bake.
He's doing the tray bakes. It's an award-winning Cumbria tourism establishment, so it's not like messing around. It's like,
I didn't mean to bring you back onto tray bakes.
These tray bakes are really worth the visit alone.
To be honest, I'm not sure whether I was supposed to be focusing on Meg or the tray bakes. This is going to be a story of ghost tray bakes.
It's quite heavy on the tray bakes. So he's experienced lots of paranormal activity to this day. I've seen some ghost hunters went there with, as far as I could tell, absolutely not the right equipment, and they spent the night in Meg's, and they're asking him about it, and he's saying, like, someone's like at his shoulder, and he turns around and he says, "What? No one's there." Do you know what I mean? Temperature changes.
Oh, here we go.
Who's that in that reflection? Oh, it's just a plug socket. There's no one there, even though I could have sworn it was a person. Oh, I've just touched that kettle. It's really warm. That one's not connected. But
that's normal tea room stuff.
That's a tea room issue. So that's just a really hot kettle. You don't want to be touching that. That is the bulk of the tale. I don't think there's any other.
I have to say, chapter 2 is looking a lot shorter than chapter 1.
Yeah.
Suggesting there was more than one.
Chapter 2 was pretty much, she's a ghost.
So what it should have been is, this is a tale of Meg's tea room, postscript. That's what it should have been. That's how I should have framed it.
Yeah.
But if I just say to you...
Postscript is that she's a ghost now.
If we just get that clean, postscript, you just tap it over. And yeah. So to further prove my case about Meg Merrilies' Teasdale of Meg's Tea Rooms with the amazing tray bakes, I got in touch with owner and master tray baker Andy Keane. And this is what he had to say about the supernatural phenomenon still knocking around.
House of Meg has been open 14 years. During them 14 years, there's been a few instances of paranormal activity, from light bulbs smashing all at the same time. We've had doors shutting. We also had myself and a colleague working away in the kitchen, and I felt a poke in my back, thinking it was my colleague, but it wasn't. Footsteps down the corridor when there's nobody been there. The medium that came said that there was 4 ghosts. One was a little boy that run back and forward. There was one that was like a tall figure that was angry at the little boy. There's supposed to be a lady, like a small lady with a cloak. Now, we think that could be Meg Merrilies, that notorious highwaywoman in the 17th century. That's who we've named the tea rooms after. And also he found that he said it's not human, it's not an animal, it's just a thing, and he's quite happy for me to be open. So, yeah.
Hold on, so we've got 2 other ghosts that you forgot to put in the podcast,
No.
Chris.
Where are these ghosts?
No, because I've zoned it in. James was like, tell the story of Meg.
Of Meg's.
He wasn't like telling the story about all these other ghosts.
This is all in the same cafe.
There's 3 other ghosts in the cafe.
These
that you didn't
ghosts
mention.
are all in the
So-
same cafe. There's 3 ghosts. When they talk about ghosts and stuff being the unexplained, this isn't what they mean.
Someone not giving information that they know.
Chris, when
Yes.
I agreed to have you on this podcast, no,
I feel like you needed more, but I don't know what more to give you than a murderer. Like a murderer disposing bodies in a canal who is a ghost now.
I think what bothers me is that you've kept changing your story so much.
That's not true.
Until she's a murderer, or there's a whole poem not mentioning her being a murderer. I'm confused.
I've not changed my story, but what we've got is a second argument coming from Keats. So the question to you is, whose word are you going to take for it?
now we go.
Me, who has spent upward of 12 minutes reading local history books and watching a bit of a documentary, or Terry Keats. I've got nothing really to add to it. Try and find some more poetry.
No,
Not necessary. I'm ready to squash a series of hot scores like celebrations into a tray bake.
Ooh.
What's your first category?
Do I say it is?
I'm going to help him out on this one. This Chris guy. I'm going to side with him. Even though it sounds like I'm not, I'm actually on Chris's side.
Okay.
Chris, first up, we're going to go. As your lawyer, I advise you to say naming.
Like the supernatural.
All right. All right, then.
Okay, he hasn't managed it.
All right.
He hasn't managed it, James, but that's okay. So
He's defended himself, right? You're court-appointed attorney, but no, you're gonna represent yourself.
I thought
then.
you said these.
okay,
I
first
thought you said these.
first category
It's
is
the supernatural.
supernatural, apparently.
Okay,
Well, you've got a ghost.
have we?
Yep, because Andy got tapped on the shoulder. I've heard Andy's testimony.
There's an old lady at table number 7 who wants a pot of tea. I've got a pot of tea. Where's this old lady? She's on table number... Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's not so much evidence as a short play that you just did there.
If we can see if Dench is free, like I really saw her as the tea lady.
Well, to play the silent old lady who disappears.
Can we get Robert De Niro to do the door noise? There's no lines.
How is the radio show going?
Well, the only thing I can really say for certain is that Dench is out. She's officially unavailable.
So I think you're looking at a 2 out of 5.
That feels unfair.
I think you should accept that.
As his attorney, you're advising him to accept that offer.
I'm now saying this is a supernatural hotspot.
After the judgment.
My community is dependent on the tourism trade brought in by this podcast making a big deal about the ghosts.
Are you looking for a pity 3, Chris? You want a pity 3?
I want to put Gilsland 4 out of 5. Yeah, I want to put that on the signpost.
This is outrageous because you don't deserve it.
Yes.
But out of respect, not for you, Chris, but for the community
Yes.
and Andy's testimony and the number of ghosts in that cafe, I'm reluctantly prepared to give you 4 out of 5.
And I will accept it.
My hands are tied. What is the next category?
The next category... Do I do this? The next category I've got for you is...
Names.
Marketability.
So, James, quick official formal lawmen aside, Chris has skipped over the naming category.
I'm going to advise him to come back to naming.
My next category has got to be naming.
Naming. Well, there's Terry Keats.
Yeah.
There's
Meg.
Meg.
The two
There's
Megs.
there's Meg
Yes.
Teasdale.
Meg Teasdale. Meg.
Merrilees.
Merrilees, lovely.
There's Carlisle. There's Andy Keane. There's Trey Bakes.
Trey Bakes is actually French for very bakes. So there's that.
That's the twee wordplay that I assume the velour-wearing fans of this podcast will love.
Velour and corduroy.
Velour and corduroy.
The
And
two fabrics.
your typical fan, velour corduroy, pockets full of Doctor Who audio story cassette tapes. Please don't put that in.
Yeah, there's some names. I'm unimpressed. There's fewer names than there are ghosts, which is unusual.
I'd like to throw in another name. King Juan of Spain.
King Juan of Spain.
Has he got anything to do with it?
And does he exist? The answer is no, on all counts, but
I said you shouldn't take the stand. This is why.
It's a 1 out of 5 for names. I'm sorry. Next category, please.
The next category I have for you is marketability.
Okay, break it down for me. I'm intrigued.
What I'm saying there is that this is a tale that expands in many different mediums. Like this is a story that I can imagine on a t-shirt. It's already in a poem. It's already got a tea rooms named after it.
Yeah. I mean, to place this in context for the listener, before we started recording, Chris, you told me that an actual lawyer had told you that you were like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, I mean, who am I to challenge you when it comes to marketability?
Yeah, I think this is like, you can imagine this tale on a sandwich box as a film. Like it's got it all really. The depth and lore of this world could run forever and ever, I think.
Chris, as an expert witness, I'll just have to accept that. It's 5 out of 5 for marketability.
Brilliant.
Okay, final category.
What is it?
I thought long and hard about this, and I think it's got to be Trey Bakes. It's got to be Trey Bakes.
I mean, surely nothing stands in its way.
Yeah, it's 5 out of 5. It's 5 out of 5 for Trey Bakes, isn't it? What can I say?
They're delicious. Can we put in the show notes like a menu example? Can I just put some pictures in the show notes? So if anyone does want to...
Chris, when you described to us that book,
Yeah.
you said that Mark Alexander had come across a unique sort of USP where he'd sort of put in adverts for local businesses in the back. And you sort of poo-pooed that as a business plan, and
Yeah.
then you just did it.
You've turned our podcast into a Mark Alexander pamphlet.
You've basically made our listeners listen to a 30 to 40 minute, depending on the edit, advert for Meg's
A 15 to
tea rooms.
20 minute advert.
Yeah, a 10 to 20 second.
I just...
You can tell you're making a show for the BBC. This is where you get out all your...
a completely unbroadcast advert.
What's Andy got on you?
All I'm going to say is that you should also maybe visit the Gills and Spa Hotel, a Cumbrian secret, waiting to be discovered. Well, this is it. It's like it's a beautiful place. I definitely, if you're into the supernatural and you think everyone in York sort of carries himself, they keep on going. Yeah, I love York, but we've got more ghosts per capita.
You've got a hot tub as well, haven't you?
I don't want to talk about the hot tub. It's images of me in the pandemic drinking sherry in a hot tub have actually made me more hated than Matt Hancock. I think I'm in danger.
There's almost a neat segue there for you to promote whatever you're up to, Chris.
He's just done
got
a
it.
promotion for what he's up to at the minute. He's in league with Andy.
I'm buying tray bakes. Lots and lots of tray
He's got
bakes.
shares in Meg's. He's got a job lot of tray bakes he can't shift.
As of last time, I sort of knock around with a lady called Amy Gledhill, and we're in a double act called The Delightful Sausage, and we've got a podcast which is a bit slicker produced than this random called Tiredness Kills, which is very, very silly. And we do it like we're recording a radio show next week
Whoa.
on Tuesday, which are going out in mid-February or March.
On Real Radio? Actual radio?
Yeah, like from the 1940s.
Digital?
Yeah, radio.
What? BBC?
It's Radio 2 as well.
Radio 2?
The wireless.
They've never even had comedy on Radio 2 before.
Some would argue they still haven't.
And I would suspect they might not again. But
You promised us Dench.
it's a weird concept because it's like, you know, like even when you're doing an Edinburgh show and stuff like that, and people come and see you that don't know who you are and stuff, but it's because someone sort of said, check this out. So they sort of like, even if they haven't seen you, it's like, you might like it, like there's an inkling that they're going to like it, whereas this is just being broadcast into vans and cars and kitchens and stuff like that.
It's going to go into a lot of the wrong ears.
They're just going to be like, what is this? Hopefully not.
I'm sure some of our listeners, when they finish the Doctor Who audio books, I'm sure a few of them will jump over.
I'm so sorry about that. Yeah, you guys are the best. Thank you for your
This episode was brought to you by Meg's Tea Room and Tray Bakes.
I genuinely think I'm going to go and make a tray bake now.
What's happening now is James is looking at me,
Yeah.
and I'm fading out and it's being replaced by a tray bake.
Steaming tray bake. Thank you to all the lovely people who left us reviews, by the way.
And thank you for joining our Patreon. If you haven't done that, you still can.
Unfortunately, you will get to hear the full poem as read by Chris Cantrill. I would like to hear him read more poems.
I wandered lonely as a cloud. So join us at patreon.com/lawmenpoems.
You know how to spell it.
And Master Tray Baker, Andy Keane. And this is what he had to say about the supernatural phenomenon still knocking around.
So you can be professional when you decide you want to be. You can switch it on.
I know. It's just
That's what's galling about it, Chris. That when you want to do it, you can do it.
I'm gonna send you
A poo in the post.
a bit of buzz.